Discussion on verses 1 to 4 of 4. This chapter continues directly from the previous one, which focused on a specific event from the history of Mecca. That event clearly demonstrated the divine protection granted by Allah, the Exalted, to Mecca and by extension to its people. It was a significant blessing that should have led them to respond with gratitude by accepting and acting upon Islamic teachings they already recognized as true at a deep level, even if they chose to reject them outwardly. The people of Mecca were not ignorant of the message they were receiving. As highly skilled speakers and critics of the Arabic language, they were fully capable of appreciating the linguistic excellence of the Holy Quran. They recognized that its expression, structure, and meaning were far beyond what any human being could produce, and therefore could not reasonably be attributed to a human source. At the same time, they had spent 40 years in the company of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, before he announced his mission. Throughout that long period, they knew him to be truthful, trustworthy, and completely free from deception. This long-standing knowledge of his character made it extremely difficult to justify suddenly accusing him of lying after the beginning of his mission. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
In addition, it was widely acknowledged among both the people of the book and the non-Muslims of Mecca that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no prior access to earlier revealed scriptures. He did not study them, read them, or learn from those who possessed them. This means he could not have drawn upon their content, whether in its original form or in the altered versions that existed among different communities. This absence of any educational or literary connection to those texts strengthens the conclusion that the message he delivered did not come from any human source. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
Despite these clear and repeated signs, many still persisted in denial and ingratitude. Their rejection was not rooted in a lack of evidence, but in a reluctance to accept a message that challenged their beliefs, habits, and sense of control. In this chapter, Allah the Exalted reminds them, and all people more broadly, of His countless blessings. The purpose of these reminders is to awaken reflection and gratitude, encouraging a person to move beyond denial, recognize the truth already evident to them, and respond with sincere acceptance and obedience to divine guidance. Chapter 106 Quraysh, verses 1 to 2.
For the accustomed security of the Quraysh, their accustomed security in the caravan of winter and summer.
A prominent figure among the non-believers of Mecca, Harith bin Uthman, is reported to have conveyed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that the leading members of his community were inwardly aware of the truth of Islam, yet remained hesitant to accept it openly. Their hesitation was not rooted in a lack of understanding, but in fear of social and political consequences. They believed that if they accepted Islam, the wider Arab tribes would oppose them, strip them of influence, and force them into exile. This reveals an important psychological barrier: the preference for maintaining status and stability, even at the cost of acknowledging a recognized truth. In this regard, Allah the Exalted revealed chapter 28 Al-Qasas, verse 57.
And they say, if we were to follow the guidance with you, we would be swept from our land. Have we not established for them a safe sanctuary, to which are brought the fruits of all things as provision from us? But most of them do not know.
This has been discussed in Imam Wahidi's Asbab al-Nuzul 28-57, pages 123 to 124. This verse directly addresses their argument by exposing its inconsistency. It reminds them that their security and provision were already granted by Allah, the Exalted, even while they persisted in disbelief. The verse therefore challenges the logic of their fear. If their safety was never dependent on their idols or political alliances, then abandoning falsehood for truth could not reasonably be expected to remove their security. Instead, the verse encourages reflection on the deeper reality that divine provision is not tied to human calculations but to the will of the Creator, who has already demonstrated care and sustenance for them. This excuse, however, was not a valid justification for rejecting the truth. The people of Mecca already occupied a position of honor among the Arab tribes, largely due to their custodianship of the sacred sanctuary associated with the house of Allah, the Exalted. Even in the pre-Islamic period, this role gave them both respect and a degree of security in trade and travel. More importantly, faith is not meant to be conditional upon comfort or acceptance from others. It requires moral courage to uphold truth even when it brings hardship. This principle is demonstrated throughout history by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and his companions, may Allah be pleased with them, who endured persecution, economic hardship, and social isolation without abandoning their commitment. Their example shows that truth is not measured by popularity or immediate benefit, but by steadfastness under pressure. Moreover, even if their fear of losing status had contained some apparent basis in worldly reasoning, it ignored a fundamental principle. When Allah, the Exalted, grants provision, safety, and honor to people, even while they are in error, it is inconsistent to assume that obedience to Him would lead to deprivation. In fact, divine generosity is not withdrawn because of sincere repentance. Rather, it is often expanded as a form of mercy and guidance. Chapter 106 Quraysh, verses 1-4.
For the accustomed security of the Quraysh, their accustomed security, in the caravan of winter and summer. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them, saving them from hunger, and made them safe, saving them from fear.
This highlights that their economic stability and safety were already established through divine favor, sustained through trade and protected travel routes. The verses link these blessings directly to the expectation of gratitude and worship, indicating that recognition of the source of these gifts should naturally lead to humility and obedience rather than arrogance or resistance. In addition, any perceived loss of wealth, influence, or tribal authority that might have followed the abandonment of idol worship would not have resulted in lasting deprivation. Instead, it would have been replaced with greater forms of honor, stability, and collective strength under divine guidance. History later reflects this pattern in the lives of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, who transitioned from vulnerability and persecution to leadership and expansion. This transformation was not accidental, but presented as a consequence of sincere faith combined with action. It demonstrates that moral commitment, even when costly at first, often produces long-term benefit, both spiritually and materially. Chapter 24 and Nur, verse 55.
Allah has promised those who have believed among you and done righteous deeds that He will surely grant them succession to authority upon the earth, just as He granted it to those before them, and that He will surely establish for them therein their religion which He has preferred for them, and that He will surely substitute for them after their fear security, for they worship Me, not associating anything with Me. But whoever disbelieves after that, then those are the defiantly disobedient.
Therefore, fear of worldly loss should never override recognition of truth. Sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is consistently portrayed as a path that aligns both spiritual integrity and practical well-being. Those who accept and act upon divine guidance are ultimately granted inner peace, clarity of purpose, and stability, while those who persist in rejection due to attachment to status often experience ongoing instability, even if they appear successful outwardly. The passage therefore calls for a reassessment of priorities, urging a shift from short-term fear to long-term certainty, grounded in accountability before Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 3 Ali Imran, verse 139.
So do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are true believers.
Chapter 106 Quraysh, verses 1-4.
For the accustomed security of the Quraysh, their accustomed security, in the caravan of winter and summer. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them, saving them from hunger, and made them safe, saving them from fear.
In general, when a person provides even a small portion of another person's worldly needs, such as offering shelter, financial help, or support, they are naturally regarded as deserving of gratitude. If this is the case with human beings who provide only limited assistance, then it is far more fitting that a person shows gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, who has granted every blessing within the universe. Every comfort, opportunity, ability, and resource a person enjoys originates from Him alone. Gratitude begins with one's intention, meaning that a person performs their actions solely to please Allah, the Exalted. If their intention is mixed with the desire for praise, recognition, or worldly benefit, then they will not receive reward from Allah, the Exalted. This reality is warned about in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154. A sign of a sincere intention is that a person does not expect appreciation or repayment from people. Gratitude with the tongue involves speaking only what is good or remaining silent, while gratitude through action means using every blessing in a manner pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as taught in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This form of gratitude leads to an increase in blessings and ultimately brings peace of mind in both worlds, enabling a person to achieve a balanced mental and physical state, and to place everything and everyone in their life in the correct position. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
Furthermore, when a person owns an object, it is considered normal and entirely fair that they use it however they wish. Since Allah, the Exalted, created, owns and sustains everything in existence, including every person, it follows that He alone has the right to determine what should occur within the universe and what should not. Therefore, it is only just that a person obeys Allah, the Exalted, for He alone possesses absolute ownership over all things, including their very existence. In the same way, when someone lends an item to another person, it is only fair that the borrower uses the item according to the wishes of its owner. Allah, the Exalted, has granted every blessing a person possesses, health, wealth, time, intellect, opportunities, not as a permanent gift but as a temporary loan. Like all loans, these blessings must be repaid. The only way to repay this loan is to use these blessings in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. In contrast, the blessings of paradise are not loans but gifts. Because they are gifts, the people of paradise will be free to use them however they desire. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 43.
And they will be called, "This is paradise which you have been made to inherit for what you used to do."
A person must therefore never confuse the temporary blessings of this world, which are alone entrusted to them, with the everlasting gifts of paradise. Worldly blessings must be used responsibly and in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, while the gifts of the hereafter will be enjoyed without restriction. To conclude, a person is encouraged to fully accept and put into practice the teachings of Islam for their own benefit, even when those teachings require them to go against personal desires or immediate inclinations. Their attitude should resemble that of a rational and trusting patient, who places confidence in the judgment of a skilled physician. Such a patient understands that the prescribed treatment may be unpleasant, difficult, or restrictive, yet still accepts it because it is known to secure long-term recovery and protection. In the same way, divine guidance may at times challenge comfort or habit, but it is ultimately directed toward a person's true well-being. Just as a disciplined patient achieves physical recovery and mental stability by consistently following medical advice, a person who follows divine guidance attains clarity of thought, emotional balance, and inner tranquility. This is because only Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete and perfect knowledge of human nature and what is required for a person to live in a balanced and meaningful way. Through this knowledge, every blessing, responsibility, and relationship is placed in its proper position, preventing excess, neglect, and disorder in life. Human knowledge, regardless of how advanced it becomes, remains limited and imperfect. Even with extensive study in fields such as psychology, biology, and human behavior, it is not possible for human beings to fully resolve every difficulty or eliminate all forms of emotional distress, instability, or hardship. Human judgment is always shaped by limited experience, partial understanding, and personal bias. As a result, systems designed by people can offer partial benefit, but they cannot provide complete guidance for every situation or guarantee inner harmony in all circumstances. In contrast, Allah, the Exalted, possesses absolute and unrestricted knowledge, and has already conveyed through the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, everything necessary for a person to live a balanced and purposeful life. The difference between those who live according to divine guidance and those who do not, can often be observed in their behavior and the outcomes of their choices. Those who align themselves with Islamic teachings tend to display greater emotional stability, clearer judgment, and a more organized approach to life, even when facing difficulty. In contrast, those who turn away from these principles frequently experience confusion, inner conflict, and a lack of direction, even when they possess outward comfort or success. This contrast highlights that true order is not merely external, but deeply connected to how a person aligns their life with divine instruction. Although a patient may not fully understand the technical details behind a medical prescription, they still trust the expertise of the physician. However, Allah, the Exalted, does not require blind following without thought. Instead, He calls upon people to reflect, reason, and observe the signs placed within themselves and the world around them. Faith is therefore built upon understanding and sincerity, not unexamined imitation. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
Furthermore, it is Allah, the Exalted, alone who governs the inner state of a person, including their emotional responses and sense of peace. Chapter 53 and Najm, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
This reality demonstrates that lasting peace of mind is not simply a product of external circumstances, but is ultimately granted by Allah, the Exalted. It is closely connected to how a person uses the blessings entrusted to them, and whether they are used in accordance with divine guidance. Those who live in obedience to this guidance tend to experience greater balance, purpose, and stability, while those who misuse their blessings often fall into confusion, unrest, and dissatisfaction. In conclusion, true tranquility, whether mental, physical, or spiritual, can only be achieved through sincere alignment with the guidance of Allah, the Exalted. It requires recognizing that divine instruction is not a restriction upon life, but a means of bringing order, meaning, and harmony to it, both in this world and in the life to come. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.